I was 15 when the world I knew slipped through my fingers. It started with whispers, behind closed doors, in hushed tones between my parents. I wasn't supposed to hear, but walls in our tiny apartment were thin. Rent was overdue again. Dad's hours at the factory had been slashed. Mom had already sold off her jewelry. Everything not nailed down was either in a pawn shop or already gone. But no one talked about Max. Max wasn't just a dog. He was my soul's twin, a golden retriever with eyes that seemed to read me better than most people could. We got him when I was 8, after my brother died in a car crash. I had gone silent for weeks, curled up in corners like I was waiting to disappear. One morning my dad walked in holding this floppy-eared, clumsy pup. Max barked once, wagged his tail, and pushed his head into my lap. I cried for the first time in a month. From that day on, we were inseparable. He knew when I needed space and when I needed company. He licked the tears off my cheeks during nights I wished my brother could still talk to me. He chased away bullies at school and waited for me by the window every single afternoon. So when I came home one day and Max was gone, my heart stopped. "Where's Max?" I asked Mom, already fearing the answer. She wouldn't look at me. "He's staying somewhere else for a while." "Where?" She didn't answer. It was my dad who broke the silence later that evening. His eyes were red. He sat me down like I was a guest in my own home. "We didn't want to do this, son," he said. But we had no choice. "You sold him?" I screamed. "He's not some thing. He's family." "We didn't even get much," Dad whispered. "Just enough to pay rent this month." I ran out of the house that night. Just kept running. My legs burned. My throat closed up. I called out Max's name into the cold winter air like maybe he could hear me from wherever they sent him. He didn't come. Weeks passed. I searched every shelter, every ad online. I posted flyers with his photo. But it was like he had vanished, gone. And eventually, as the seasons changed and school pulled me back into routine, I stopped crying every night. The ache dulled. But it never disappeared. I could never forgive my parents, not fully. And I never, ever forgot Max. The years after Max was taken felt like living with a phantom limb. Something that should have been there but wasn't. I would still wake up sometimes thinking I heard his paws patting down the hallway. Every time I dropped food on the floor, my instinct was to wait for him to come sniffing. He never did. My relationship with my parents changed forever. We never truly spoke of that day again, as if silence could erase betrayal. I moved out at 18, found a job at a hardware store, and started night school for automotive repair. I kept my distance. I couldn't go home without imagining Max behind every corner. But despite the bitterness, life moved forward. I grew into someone who laughed sometimes. I had a few friends, a decent job, and a beat-up old motorcycle I fixed up myself. There were even moments when I thought I was finally okay. Then came the email. It was a Tuesday evening. Rain tapped gently on the windows as I sat in my cramped apartment eating instant noodles. I almost deleted the message, assuming it was spam. But the subject line stopped me cold. Golden Retriever, rehomed 7 years ago in Riverdale. My heart punched my ribs. I clicked. "Hi there. You don't know me, but I adopted a golden retriever from a man in Riverdale about 7 years ago. He didn't come with papers, but he had a red collar with the name Max etched into the leather. I'm reaching out because I saw an old lost pet flyer in a Facebook group that someone reposted, and I think Max might be your dog. He ran away last week. I haven't been able to find him since. I'm so sorry if this is upsetting. If you want to talk, here's my number. Emily." I dropped my fork. My hand shook. Max. 7 years. The collar. Red leather. I remembered buying it with my allowance. I called the number instantly. A soft voice answered. Emily. She told me Max had lived with her on a farm an hour outside the city. She got him from a man who said he couldn't afford to keep him anymore. She described Max's habits, how he would only sleep near windows, how he whined when she played piano, how he loved scrambled eggs. Those were my Max's habits. Tears pricked my eyes. Do you think he's trying to come back to me? I asked. I think he remembers something, she replied quietly. I just wanted you to know. If he finds his way home, he might show up. I didn't sleep that night. For days I left food outside my apartment door. I visited shelters again. I drove up to Emily's place and walked through the woods, calling his name like I used to. Nothing. Weeks passed. Then, one cold morning, I heard it. A soft scratching at my front door. The scratching was faint at first, like the wind brushing against metal. I almost ignored it. But then came the whimper. A soft, broken sound. Familiar. Forgotten. I froze, noodle cup in hand, heart thundering. For a moment, I was 15 again. Desperate, hopeful, and terrified all at once. Slowly, I stepped toward the door. My hands trembled as I gripped the handle and pulled it open. There he was, a ghost of the dog I remembered, yet somehow still him. His golden fur was matted and dull, clumped with dirt and twigs. One paw lifted slightly off the ground. He was limping, ribs visible beneath his coat, his face older, worn, but those eyes were Max's. He looked up at me and wagged his tail. I dropped to my knees. Max? I whispered, unsure if I was dreaming. My throat tightened. He limped forward slowly and pressed his head into my chest. That was it. I broke. I cried, heaving, shuddering sobs that came from somewhere deep, from every year I'd missed him. And through it all, Max just stayed still, leaning into me like he used to when I was a kid crying after nightmares. He remembered. I carried him inside, gently, carefully, like something sacred. Laid him on an old blanket and brought water. He lapped it up, then curled into a tight ball, letting out a sigh. Exhausted, finally home. I called Emily. She cried too when I told her. He walked for miles, she said. He's old now. I didn't think he had it in him. Neither did I. I took Max to the vet the next morning. The doctor was gentle. Max had arthritis in his back legs, a few old wounds that had healed poorly, and one fresh cut on his paw that needed stitches. But otherwise, he was stable. Alive. He's tough, the vet said, examining him. Some dogs, they never forget their first home. Max came back with antibiotics, pain meds, and strict rest orders, but he didn't care about rules. He followed me from room to room, limping behind, refusing to leave my side. At night, he lay beside my bed and dozed with his paw touching mine. Every now and then, he'd lift his head and look at me, like making sure I was still there. I was, and I wasn't going anywhere. The word miracle gets thrown around a lot. But what else do you call it when a dog you lost at 15 finds his way back at 22, starved, broken, limping through strange streets, guided by nothing but a memory? I called it fate, loyalty, love, or maybe just Max. Max didn't have much time left, but he didn't need much. What mattered was that he spent it where he belonged, with me. The first week, he barely left the blanket I laid out near the heater, but slowly his spirit returned. His eyes brightened, his tail thumped whenever I walked into the room. And though his body was frail, his love, his loyalty, had never wavered. We settled into a quiet rhythm. I cooked scrambled eggs just the way he liked. He refused dog food, so I fed him boiled chicken and rice from my hand. He still hated rain and barked at the vacuum cleaner like it was the devil. At night, he would curl beside me on the couch, resting his chin on my leg as I worked on my laptop. Sometimes I'd turn off the lights, lie beside him, and whisper all the things I never got to say during those lost years. I missed you every day, Max. I looked for you everywhere. He would nudge his nose into my chest as if saying, I know. I even took time off work to be with him. My boss didn't understand, but I didn't care. Max had walked through pain, hunger, and cities I'd never seen, just to find me. The least I could do was give him the peace he earned. But time is cruel, even to the purest hearts. One morning, he didn't get up to eat. His breathing was slow, shallow. His eyes found mine as I knelt beside him. And I knew. I called the vet. She came to the apartment. He's fading, she said gently. His body's just done. but he's not in pain. I held him, stroking his ears like I did when he was a pup. He looked up at me, tired but content. He waited for you, the vet said. That was all he needed. I kissed his head. It's okay, buddy, you did good, you came home. Max let out one soft breath, then another. Then he was still. I didn't cry at first. I just sat there, holding him, feeling the weight of both joy and grief in my arms. The boy in me was shattered, but the man I'd become was whole, because Max had found his way back, even when the world gave him no map. I buried him in a quiet spot near the edge of town, beneath a tree that bloomed in spring. I made a marker from wood I carved myself. Max, loyal until the end. You found your way home. Some days, I still wake expecting to hear his bark. And sometimes when I sit on the couch with my coffee, I swear I feel a presence beside me. I live a different life now. I got a better job, moved to a small house with a backyard, and started volunteering at the shelter once a week. I tell people about Max. I show them his photo. A few of them cry when they hear the story. Some don't believe it. A dog gone for 7 years, finding his way back. But I know the truth. Love remembers. Loyalty endures. And sometimes, when the world takes everything from you, one miracle walks right back to your door, limping, tired, but home. Max was never just a dog. He was my anchor, my compass, my miracle. And he kept his promise.